I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. I'd ask the clerk to announce the meeting and call roll.
A special session is being held on Thursday, February 28th, 2019 at 5 o'clock p.m. in the 5th floor conference room for the Municipal Court Judge selection. Roll call. McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Walters. Philbrook.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Burrows.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Alvey.
Here. Tonight, we'll have interviews for the three candidates recommended by the subcommittee for the Administrative Judge and Municipal Court. At this time, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Markley, the chair of the subcommittee, to provide an overview.
So as you all recall, we promoted from within for Mo Ryan's position, which meant we now had an open position we needed to fill. So we went through the exact same process a second time with a new posting for that job. We only got one applicant that was different from the prior round of applicants. We did 3 additional interviews, and out of the pool of candidates, we have sent forward 3 candidates for interview, Megan Schultz, Karen Whitman, and Ryan Hagar. So they are going to be with us tonight. Just like last time, I plan to ask each of them 3 questions so they'll have an opportunity to introduce themselves and talk to you all a little bit, and then we have the same balloting procedure as last time as well. Questions? Yes?
Thank you, Commissioner. You said you only had one new applicant
Right.
that applied.
So all the prior applicants were invited to roll their application forward and did so, and then we had one new applicant who hadn't applied for the prior position.
Thank you.
Okay, and I confess, Ken, I've already forgotten what order they go in, so can you help me to tell who is going first? Megan Schultz. They drew numbers, in case anyone is curious as to how we determined that.
First candidate is Megan Schultz.
Welcome, Megan. So I have the honor again tonight of asking you, I have 3 questions for you. So everyone here again has seen a copy of your resume, and we'll just dive right into those questions.
All right.
What do you think are the greatest opportunities or challenges the court faces in the next 5 years, and how do you hope to address them?
I think that our biggest challenge is continuing to keep up with technology. Judge Ryan, along with Judge Roberts, are the ones that brought us Regis, which contains Web, which we use to check people's backgrounds, and IMDS Plus court software. Using that software has been so phenomenal in moving our court forward. We have learned many new ways to utilize it, and I think it will continue to help us on this journey. However, there are other things technologically that I feel like we need to consider. The KBI now has an established conference room with the potential to do witness testimony for DUI, for their toxicologists on DUI cases and other drug cases, but for us it would be primarily DUI cases. But we do not have the technology in our courtrooms to facilitate this right now. And I think it would be very important for us to consider it. It's not right in every case, but it is definitely right to use it in some of our cases. The usual thing that happens on a DUI case when there is a toxicologist involved, the toxicologist shows up at court, the other witnesses show up at court, and then often the defendant enters into a plea. So the toxicologist has traveled from Topeka and sat in court and not usually testified. It would be great if we could allow them the luxury of, at times, not actually having to make that commute, as long as we can do it in a way that still ensures the rights of the defendants. And I think our biggest opportunity that we have has to do with mental health issues. We have a segment of the population that we end up dealing with because their mental health issues have caused them to behave in a pattern of conduct that puts them in jail and then puts them in front of us. We now have a court liaison, Jeff Robinson, who is with Wyandotte Mental Health. He works with us, and we are doing some work with Judge Lynch with her care and treatment docket crossovers between her clients or the people that she sees and our defendants. I believe that we have an opportunity to increase not only the coordination, but also the new KU campus that is being renovated will contain a courtroom. And I believe that there is a large opportunity for us to maybe siphon off some of the mental health issue cases into that courtroom if we're able to coordinate that with KU and with the district court.
What type of professional relationship should municipal court have with the mayor, CEO, county administration, and commissioners, and how would you deal with potential conflicts between those stakeholders?
In my opinion, the commission sets the policies through its stated goals, through the passing of ordinances and resolutions. The court, whether it's the court administrator or the judges, should be able to come to commission meetings, for example, at the state of the court, and other times when necessary, to communicate with commissioners, the mayor, CEO, and the county administrator regarding the direction that the court is going, other things that are happening in the court, but not about individual cases. Any person that is a judge has to uphold the judicial ethics, which require an independent judiciary and also requires the avoidance of the appearance of impropriety. So it would be improper for a judge to communicate with any about an individual case.
And our final question is kind of open-ended, so you can speak about yourself in 5 minutes or less. Tell us why you would be the best candidate and should be selected for the position.
I think that I'm the best candidate because I am ready to hit the ground running. I am familiar with the court software. I'm familiar with the court procedures. I have handled all of the dockets that we hold. I am familiar with all of the court personnel. I have good working relationships with all of the court personnel, and I believe that I would be a great addition to the team. I believe that my strengths complement the strengths of the people that are already there, in particular, Crystal Sprague, the court administrator, and Judge Brakovic. I really believe that the three of us work well together, and I would be an asset in that respect. I am really passionate about and excited about the changes that our court has made over the last few years. We hold regularly scheduled dockets that are called ability to pay dockets. They're on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. There are people, because of historic accumulation of fines, that don't have an ability to pay their fines. We deal with that by doing an ability to pay hearing, and we're doing those frequently, and I'm not sure that people are aware that we're doing them. And I like the direction that we're going with it, especially when it comes to traffic fines. It's best for all of us if people are able to be licensed drivers. And one of the ways to do that when they have excessive fines is to look at their actual ability to pay those fines and forgive the fines or come up with some sort of alternative means of them satisfying the fines. We have also allowed people to automatically sign up for community service. Used to be, we required you to attempt to pay your fine first, but when you come in and you plead guilty and you say, hey, what can I do community service? The answer is yes. You can do either community service in full, or you can do a combination of making partial payments and community service. And I really think that has helped our court increase compliance. I believe it's helped increase our efficiency. We allow people to make payments online, but unfortunately at this time, we're only doing payments in full. I believe I would love to be a part of making it so that we could do partial payments online. That would increase, I believe, compliance with payment. It would decrease the need for people to appear in court. We have had, over the course of the last couple years, we have transitioned our DUI diversions off of the regular docket for their check-in. This has reduced waiting time from 3 hours down to 30 minutes or less for those people, which I believe helps them as far as keeping employment and being able to pay and do all the other things in their life that are important to them. And lastly, but maybe even most importantly, I love this community. I moved here in 2005, didn't know anything about Wyandotte County, but I am extremely proud to live here. I love the people here. I'm involved in the community, and I really feel like having a passion for Wyandotte County is important to have with the judge. I'm from an Air Force family, so I have lived a couple of places, to put it mildly. And my husband and I have raised our children here, and we are very happy to call this place home. And so I really believe that this place has the best of both worlds. We have a small town feel, but with big city amenities, and I think it's critical that you have a person in the municipal court judge position.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next candidate is Karen Whitman.
Welcome, Karen. How are you?
Very good.
We're gonna
Glad to be back.
welcome back. We're gonna put you through the 3 questions like last time.
Okay.
Once again, we're just here in round 2.
Right.
It's like one of those singing shows. You made it to the next round.
That's right.
So everybody's seen your resume just like last time. So we will just dive right in. What do you think are the greatest opportunities or challenges the court faces in the next 5 years, and how do you hope to address them?
Well, I did watch the people last time, and I know that you all ask about computer. I know that Judge Brandy mentioned computerized thing for the court. I do know that when I get stuff over at the DA's office from it, it's now more computerized than it used to be. The older ones were handwritten notes. But I'd like to at least tell the commission that I was one of the stakeholders in the Kansas Criminal Justice Information System that is housed within the KBI. Back I would say maybe 5 years ago, it became very apparent that we were not tracking DUI offenders very well in the state. For example, here, I'm sure it happened here, it happened in Topeka, there was a municipal court and a district court. There could be literally 2 different DUIs pending in both of the courts, and neither court knew that was happening. And so KDOT realized that this was a safety issue for our state, and they put up money to create something in the CACEGIS realm in the KBI to keep track of these DUIs. So they needed stakeholders that use the system, can design the system, etc. So I was one of them that helped, first of all, look at the business process, how it is now, how it was, and how it wasn't working, and then help the designers actually put together the system that we currently have. It took over 2.5 years. They hired a company outside to help design it, but the KBI did a lot of the work also. And basically, it was for all district courts and municipal courts to be able to get the information to the KBI almost in real time. Because we found that how it was happening, if somebody got convicted of a DUI in a municipal court or a district court, they'd fill out the papers, they'd put it in a manila envelope, and when the manila envelope got full, then they would send it. Well, I'm trying to prosecute a guy, and he's now got a different, he's not a second, he's a third, and so that's what was going on. So this system that was put together is revolutionary for states, because it literally, we knew all the information was out there somewhere, it just wasn't, nobody was talking to one another. So now how the system operates is a person can sit at their computer and access the portal to the KBI, to the criminal justice information, and it will go out and search all of those different places and bring that information in. Once it was completed, I was lucky enough that they chose me to roll out the design of the thing and how it works. I also even got to present at the CACEGIS meeting that they have annually for stakeholders about how the process came about. Even after that was designed, I wanted those documents to be able to be admissible in court. And so they tasked me with actually writing the law to create that mechanism. Well, I went and surveyed all the states. I'm like, well, somebody else has to be doing something like this. Well, nobody did it. And I was like, how am I going to do? I had nothing. And so finally, I just decided I'm going to say it is so. So I wrote the law to allow for that stuff to be certified and be admissible in court, and now that is the law. So I have a lot of background in dealing with criminal justice records, how they need to be done and where they need to go, and how it's done there at the KBI. So I go at least that part of it, and I know that was one of Judge's priority, and I feel like I could bring good information to the table for that.
Okay. What type of professional relationship should municipal court have with the mayor, CEO, county administration, and commissioners, and how would you deal with potential conflicts between those stakeholders?
My answer is a little different this time only because this is not for the administrative judge. I feel that the administrative judge is the one that should have the voice of to the commission. It should be a single voice. Obviously, I'm in hopes that the administrative judge will get input from me. You know, we'd have a united front in that communication, but clearly I don't think I should have a voice as a second. It should be the administrative judge speaking to the commission as one single voice.
All right. In 5 minutes or less, tell us why you would be the best candidate and should be selected for this position.
Well, I didn't want to just say ditto from the, you know. So I thought I'd take at least this 5 minutes to give you a little bit. I know you have my resume, but to give you kind of a little overview of what I have done. Right currently, I am a Deputy District Attorney over at the courthouse. But I have a really unique background. I have a degree in forensic science with a minor in chemistry. I have worked in a crime lab and I testified as an expert witness in the field of forensic chemistry. I did that for 6 years prior to going to law school because I kind of liked that law thing. It seemed interesting. And so I ended up coming to Washburn. Never been to Kansas before. I got my law degree. I also met my husband, but he was a lawyer too, but he was out of school by the time I got there. I've been basically a prosecutor, but I had some experience in racing and gaming, which was a lot of fun. I used to come to the Woodlands to work, and of course my husband was kind of, you're going to the racetrack to go to work, but it was a great job. I also worked in insurance fraud, workers' compensation fraud, but my passion has always been traffic safety and keeping our roads safe. During my work in the district attorney's office in Shawnee County, I created, and I brought a copy because I just come out with I called it the 14th edition because the 13th edition scared me. But I've done 13 editions of a DUI law book. I am considered an expert in the field of DUI in the state of Kansas. And I had that job for 8 years. I did all sorts of things. I trained thousands of law enforcement officers all across the state. I've trained prosecutors. I've trained judges. I was a municipal judge for 21 years. I was invited to the Municipal Judges Conference and gave presentations to them specifically on DUI law or traffic safety law. I have written a number of articles, and I know I've listed them there for you, and I've done 2 since I turned that into you. My husband and I just celebrated 28 years of marriage. We have 2 children. My daughter, who is finishing up graduate school, she was a dual athlete. She played ice hockey from Kansas, ice hockey and soccer, and she wants to be a law enforcement officer, and so she's applied to be a law enforcement officer. And my son, he's a junior in KU, and he wants to be a computer geek. He's an Eagle Scout, very proud of both of them. But I will finish up by saying I hope that I will have an opportunity to work with the administrative judge to meet the goals that she has, as well as the commission's goals, to make this community as safe as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So last, by process of elimination, we'll hear from Ryan Hagar.
Next candidate is Ryan Haga.
Welcome, Ryan, and thanks for being here.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Man. So I have 3 questions that I'll ask you. Similar to our previous interview with the committee, I'll ask all 3 questions, and everybody here, including the commissioners who aren't on the committee, have seen your resume and had access to that information. What do you think are the greatest opportunities or challenges the court faces in the next 5 years, and how do you hope to address them?
Well, I think in particular to Wyandotte County, I know that we've prioritized trying to do things we can to raise up the community in terms of some of our housing issues and blight issues, and while also dealing with the economic disparities that help undergird a lot of those issues. So I think a big part of what is going to be the municipal court judge's job is to make sure that whenever people come in front of them, regardless of whether it's some sort of housing issue or, more typically traffic or some other misdemeanor, that has a positive effect on showing that we take such violations seriously, and that we want to hold them accountable without also using the system to to put people into basically no-win situations where they really can't dig themselves out from under a situation where they maybe have fines on top of fines and another disparities as far as going forward.
What type of professional relationship should municipal court have with the mayor, CEO, county administration, and commissioners, and how would you deal with potential conflicts between those stakeholders?
Well, obviously, given that that the municipal court judge serves at the favor of the mayor and the commission, obviously there's a significant amount of accountability there. So that I do think it is the municipal court judge's duty to a certain extent to be aware of what the county's priorities are, and to the extent practicable and fairly help move those priorities forward, and hopefully share those priorities, quite frankly, given that we're all members of the same community. But at the same time, it's important that the municipal judge be fair and objective, to where whenever there's a defendant comes in front of you, that the front of your mind isn't what can I do to this person to get them to comply and push forward our community priorities, without without listening to the person's actual circumstances in which they are living under and what led to the violation that it has come up. Now, not to say that if someone comes in with a sad enough story that you shouldn't apply the law and make sure to hold that person accountable, but it's important that whenever a citizen comes in front of the municipal court, that they know that they're getting a fair, independent hearing, regardless of what other priorities that the unified government should be pushing. And which it is a tough balance to maintain, because I do believe the municipal court judge is a representative of the unified government. I do think it is part of their job, besides just running those dockets, to get out into the community and make sure people know them, understand them, and know that whenever they come in front of them, they're going to get a fair shake. Just the way that it's important that the community has general access to the UG, so they can understand what our priorities are and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so I think that can be an interesting line to try to tread as municipal judge, since to a certain extent you do need to be a bit of a legal computer. The offense goes in here, the likely outcome comes out there, but it isn't that mechanical. We all know. I mean, the judges have discretion in terms of crafting certain penalties and fines that we can't take into account the person's circumstances, and quite frankly, to a certain extent, the county's goals and aspirations as well.
Okay, in 5 minutes or less, tell us why you would be the best candidate and should be selected for the position.
I think what I really bring to the mix here is I have a real diversity of viewpoint as a practicing attorney. I graduated law school in 2005. I started doing firm work, but I only did that for about 3 years before I opened my own practice here in Wyandotte County. I had my office on 26th and Armstrong and Don Taylor's building and Ray Probst's building, doing district court criminal appointments, doing bankruptcies, doing divorces, tickets, and other various criminal law work here in the county. And I did that for about 2.5 years. For those 2.5 years, I represented defendants in all different types of circumstances, economic and socio and what have you. And so as a advocate for those people during that time, I feel like I'm gonna have a strong perspective of what it's like to be on the defensive end and not just simply from the prosecutor's point of view. Also during that time, I worked regularly as a judge pro tem here in Kansas City, Kansas. So while I was doing that type of work in the district court, I was also over here working the traffic dockets, the domestic dockets, the DUI dockets as a pro tem. In 2012, I got a job here as a municipal attorney, and in the 6-7 years I was here, I had a bunch of different duties. I started off doing general litigation, but during that time, a big part of what I was doing here on a regular basis was filling in for the dockets down on the second floor, filling in for Megan, filling in for Vicky, doing the traffic dockets, doing the DUI dockets, doing the domestic dockets, and having a strong familiarity with those works. And I've been willing to bet my numbers that was probably the primary substitute during at least for my first 2 or 3 years. In fact, my first jury trial for the Wyandotte County was taking an appeal from municipal court and trying it over in the district court. Excuse me. Then some time ago, some of you may be aware, I became the codes prosecutor. So I ran the regular Wednesday morning codes docket. And so, and dealing with those issues, primarily, obviously housing issues, code violations some of it's for not cutting your grass. A lot of it, though, dealing with housing, unsafe housing and what have you, and helping craft those ordinances, as well as working on the administrative program that's currently in place. So I really think that one of the things I really bring to the table as a municipal judge is that I've done defense work, and I've done prosecution work, and I've already spent some time in the role of judge. But I think the most important thing is that I really think that I have a track record I can point to where I don't just come in and sit down and just do my job. When I took over the district, I looked for opportunities for improvements and to make changes. When I took over the codes court docket, after a couple of months of coming in and on your typical Wednesday morning where we have it's a 2-hour docket, we have a line of citizens, we've got a line of code officers. They come up, they come up in front of the judge. The code officer opens up his book and starts pulling out photographs. The citizen starts arguing about them. It took forever. It was long. It was noisy.
You have 1 minute, sir. 1 minute.
Thank you. While working with Judge Bronkovich, after consulting with her, I made the decision to take my code officers out of the courtroom. Instead of bringing everyone in on Wednesday morning, I would meet with the code officers on Tuesday afternoon to go over their cases, find out what the status of the different cases were so I could talk about them with the citizens when they came in, explain to them whether the case needed to be closed, keep it open, what problems needed to be addressed. And what that led to was, quite frankly, a much quieter, faster docket and certainly less contentious, as well as freeing up 10 to 15 code officers every Wednesday morning to go out looking at properties instead of coming in and sitting in court for 2 hours. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I bring a diversity of viewpoint to the job, but also I have a track record of looking for ways I can make a positive change, and if I can find those opportunities, I will do that. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, Commissioners, like we did last time, there'll be a ballot with the three names. They're in alphabetical order, and we ask that you rank the three candidates in your order of preference, and then we'll see what the results of that. If one candidate gets 6 or more votes, then there's no need to have any further ballots.
Administrator Bach, can I get a pen that works? I didn't have a pen that worked last time either. And Commissioner Townsend got 3 and they didn't work either.
No, I've been that one.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sometimes not the pen.
I know. That's what I thought. I know. I'm mad at the committee that made this split. We're on the committee. I'm not happy with you right now. Could have made this easier on all of us. Here, Bridget. Thank you.
Okay, we did not have one candidate that had the majority of the votes. So in doing this, we went through and tabulated out who the two top place candidates would be based on the lowest score between 1 through 5. And those two candidates turn out to be Ryan Haga and Megan Schultz. So now you'll go to your second ballot and you'll vote between them as to who you would pick as first. Yeah, I mean, you can vote for two, but it's pretty apparent. You're voting between just these two. So Karen Whitman is eliminated by the first ballot. So now instead of taking a person that might have 5, which both of these had 2-5 first place votes, so this could be interesting. But you're to go to it from a standpoint of vote for your first place candidate, and that's all we need on the sheet of paper is who you're voting first between Megan Schultz and Ryan Haga. And the votes are in. We have 5 first place votes for Megan Schultz and 5 first place votes for Ryan Haga.
Do we have the trick question?
I think the question is, do you make a difference to have another ballot? Someone.
You want to have discussion about this? I mean, you're kind of at a point now, I mean,
So
can keep voting.
I was gonna say, I'll just make a comment just as the committee chair. The one thing that I would say distinguish these two candidates, just in terms of how things played out as a committee, we actually interviewed Megan for the administrator's job. We interviewed her for Mo Ryan's position, and she didn't make it into the top 3 because she didn't have a judge's background. But we actually interviewed her initially to potentially be the boss. So then obviously when we moved on to the second round, she was sort of obviously in the running from that perspective. Ryan, we did not interview the first time around, but obviously he came out in the top 3 this time. So I think they're both great candidates. I feel like maybe it's kind of awkward, but I feel like I should mention that Ryan, I'm not helping because I'm saying good things about both of them, am I? But Ryan did, he spent some time in the hospital between both rounds of interviews, so he came basically straight from the, he came straight from the hospital to interview with us, so he's obviously incredibly dedicated both times. So again, I don't know that I was helpful because I just said great things about both of them, but just as far as giving some lay of the land, there you go.
What would be, or is it possible to delay the vote, or what would be the repercussions so that you have the 11th? Is it imperative that we make a decision tonight?
Could we wait for Walters?
No, there's no requirement that you make this decision tonight. The timing of tonight was that it would allow time for the judge to be on board before Judge Ryan left, which is at the end of March.
But we do have a commission meeting next week on the 7th. And at this time, to our knowledge, you were all scheduled to be here.
But I'm sorry, Gail, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would surely like to see us do that if it's not going to be a detriment by not making a decision tonight. That way you do have the input from 11. And both parties, we just had a wealth of talent, but to give each of these candidates the full benefit of just, fair as it could be, that's what I personally would like to see happen.
So my concern would be, I understand that, if Commissioner Walters is back, then he would at least need to have viewed the interview before we would decide to vote again, and whether there would be an opportunity for us just to have maybe one question with each of the candidates. I don't know, but
I'm gonna say this. 1 week is not gonna be detrimental to the operation of the court. I mean, all our operations suffer through shortages that go much more than that, so I'm sure that Judge Brakovich can figure that out, and we can manage as we go through that. If we're short, we'll have a pro tem for a longer period of time, so that's a very manageable scenario on 1 week. The other issues of coming in, I mean, you have the option, it's not 6 o'clock. You could bring the 2 candidates in individually and ask them another question if you want to, or something like that could weigh that, or wait for next week and we can visit with Commissioner Walters as he comes in and try to make sure he has we'll have it on YouTube since we put it out there. He could watch the recording from that perspective, and if you want to, during the meeting next week, we are full up in the special session at this point, so we have a few things going on at 7 o'clock, but we could still have the candidates come up and you could ask them questions during the meeting if you wanted to do that as well.
Commissioner Kane?
Well, Hagar just got out of the hospital, and Jim isn't here. And in my world, normally what you do is you have them come back in, but I think we cool off for a week, have them come in and give them 5 minutes of their spiel, and then we vote. And then that would be fair to everybody.
I agree.
Did you say that louder?
No, I don't think so. I think you put the asterisk on it. Okay, so that's what we'll do.
Okay, so we'll work with you, Mayor, on the logistics of how we can do that between either the special session or the 7 o'clock, which is probably going to be where we're at.
Fine, that's good.
Louis? Louis? On the 7th? That's Monday. He's back after that.
While we have this moment of silence, I would just like to thank my committee because this was very time consuming, and I do appreciate all of you making time in your schedules to do all the interviews and come up with questions and everything else that we did, so thanks.
Well, this'll
So at this time, we'll conclude this meeting. We will reconvene in open session to the commission chamber at 7 for our planning and zoning and full commission meeting.
Then I'll come for you.
Okay.